So now there's a third player. There's Team Red and there's Team Blue. And because they fight, Team Deep State can become totalitarian. Well, then who's in charge? This doesn't make any sense logically. You know that, right? Like this makes no sense. The way he's talking makes no sense at all. Like if the deep state is there, then it's running everything, and it doesn't matter who's in power. All right, let's see if we can push through this to the end. I didn't think this was going to take 4 parts, guys. I'm sorry, but let's see what madness ensues next, shall we?
People are better off playing the cards they're dealt than overthrowing the system.
But I would say that economic analysis you were talking about that the right overlooks, I think they have it now. That's MAGA. That's with MAGA now.
I agree.
So when we use left or right, we're kind of, yeah.
All I'm saying is the past right has been stingy about people who suffer through no fault of their own.
Yeah.
If bad luck has made it impossible for you to participate in the market, right? Mm-hmm. Something through no fault of your own, you're born without the ability to walk. You're actually our responsibility, in my opinion. If your own bad decision making puts you in that situation, that might be a different story. But
see, this is the interesting thing.
This is fascinating, first of all. Brett just makes a bunch of claims with no evidence. That's never been true. Everything he said is a lie. Now, it's probably a lie because he's stupid, but also he's stupid. So, I don't care why you lie. I'm a pragmatist. It's wrong. And then he won't even take a stance and say, if you made a bad decision, it's your fault. He said, maybe. Did you notice the little psyop? You want psyops? All the people talking about psyops, they're the people doing psyops. Usually on themselves, and you're getting caught up in it. Fair enough. Don't follow bad people. But it is ridiculously insane. Ridiculously insane. There's an asymmetry in the market. If you divide it between right and left, which they keep having to do, although you notice also, Mike pointed out, yeah, it doesn't work. Right, it doesn't work. MAGA is not right or left. That is correct. That is correct. And that's why it's also the majority. Because the majority of people are not on the right or the left. I don't know what else to tell you. This is why this two thing system doesn't work. It doesn't map to anything reasonably. It's too low resolution, as Dr. Peterson would say. So there's an asymmetry in government in particular. Okay, you can just look this up. This isn't actually that hard. Okay, bills get passed with Republicans. That's how they get passed. Period. Because Republicans are organized. They submit more bills that are more likely to get through because they take their time with them and they're more organized, right? They're the structured people. They're the conservatives, right? Everybody else, which is the left, is not that. It just, right? And fortunately, it's actually a minority, a fairly sizable minority, in fact, but it's not as many people as you think. It's nowhere near 50-50, not even close. Why people vote a certain way, usually disaffected conservatives get upset because if you don't have an alternative to the system that you're upset about, what you end up doing inevitably, because there's no other way to do it, is you side with the other people who have a grievance. And so all the grievance people end up on the left, and all the people who understand the world is imperfect and are tolerant for real end up on the right. Just the way it is. Like, I didn't make it up. You can just observe it. Once you look at it that way, the world makes more sense. It just makes more sense. So important to know. But let's see what comes next. I hate it when people just make claims without evidence, especially ridiculous ones. Like all the things that help people were passed by Republicans. I don't know what to tell you.
Thing is that what we're talking about with me saying a lot of this stuff has gone to MAGA is we're in the middle of a huge paradigm shift, a political paradigm shift. And this is why all the heterodoxy, as far as I can see, is on the right now. And we have to allow that landscape to find its footing. And if we're scattergunning all sorts of ideas in this and calling them woke right, then whatever this new paradigm will be, it might end up being the extreme version of what it could be, which is something really new and interesting. Which
Mike is so close, and yet. Yeah, I mean, it's fair to say there's a new political paradigm. Sure. But the new paradigm is stop thinking in binaries. That's the new paradigm. Just cut it out. Because when you're in binary mode, you're in Puritan mode automatically. If you think there's only two options, that you're purifying the world. And you're setting one side against the other because you don't have a choice because you're living in a flat binary world. Well, everything's either 1 or 0 in a binary world. Everything's either Democrat or Republican in a binary world. Well, Trump is a moderate leftist. So just like Bill Clinton, like Trump is Bill Clinton who disagrees with Bill Clinton on China and trade. He said it in the 90s on Oprah. His political positions changed 0%, probably in his whole life. He's always been exactly the same. And the amount of cope around that fact is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. He's a moderate Democrat. He's a leftist. So the new paradigm is vote for the moderates, like JFK. It's so new. It's so new. They were doing it in the 60s. Unbelievable. This is so... None of these people know any history worth knowing at all. It's so strange. A new political... You guys don't even have a definition of politics. Like, come on, just stop. But his point is correct. Like, yeah, you're trying to label things and purify them, right, before they've done anything wrong. Like, oh, there's people that won't talk to James because he insulted their religion, their public religious practice. Really? Okay. Yeah, they're the bad guys, for sure. Mirror, James, mirror.
It's possible.
So I think then all three of us are agreed that this is a perilous moment and an exciting moment. And the question is, which direction are we going to go?
Yeah.
James is focused on a failure mode that is, I agree, likely to upend the whole project, and therefore
I
worth
have a
paying
positive
attention
side too, by the way, but we can come to it somewhere.
Okay.
So, you notice the false dichotomy that Bret does? Perilous and exciting. I don't know what to tell you. People find skydiving exciting because it's perilous. Do you know biology? I mean, seriously? Like, I'm just at that point. Are you sure that you know anything about biology at all? Like, literally anything, or actually anything at this point. It was one of the sort of curious things that Jordan Peterson pointed out, right? Like, I think he said flies will go and do this thing and they tumble on purpose. Oh, I wonder why they do that. It sounds perilous, yet exciting. Like, those aren't a dichotomy. It's not one or the other. Those two things go together. And this is what I mean in my earlier live stream on comprehension, right? Literacy versus comprehension is high literacy and low comprehension. If you had good comprehension, you would know those two things go together, that you can't split them apart like that and then put them in opposition to one another. This opponent processing garbage, they're all copying Hegel, and Hegel was a moron, and it doesn't work. And had it worked, it would have worked a long time ago, which is one way is a good indicator it doesn't work, right? Well, Hegel's a really smart guy, and nothing that he did worked. How smart was he then? You apply that to all the philosophers past Plato and Aristotle, by the way, and it just works. Oh, look, they're all useless. Yeah, they are. It's technically correct. Well, they have good questions. Yeah, 3-year-olds have good questions. Like, call me when you have something interesting. Okay, not something that happens every day all the time. So these people are enamored with these little systems, these binary systems, and it's a binary system. So it's automatically oppositional for them because they live in this flat world, and then they end up saying really stupid things, like really stupid. This is very low IQ stuff here. Well, it could be perilous or it could be exciting. No, it's definitely both of those at the same time. What are you complaining about? We don't know what we're complaining about. Peril is not something to complain about. I'm sorry. Life is perilous. Excitement certainly isn't something to complain about. Where's the danger? Is peril supposed to represent some danger? Well, what if it's always dangerous to be in politics? Because you could get shot, or you could get your bill shot down. You could get your ego hurt. You could get caught in a scandal for doing something that every other person that's not a politician does all the time. Right? Like, what are we talking about here? What do you mean perilous? Like, everything can be considered perilous. Let's actually get to a ground reality. I mean, these three are never going to get to ground reality. They're speaking in second order abstractions all the time. But we really need to. Like, what is the danger? Because without knowing what the peril is, you can't assess the risk. And if you can't assess the risk, you actually shouldn't take an action, right? And that's why these highfalutin people who talk with the Harvard 10-cent words, well, they're 30-cent words now, it's inflation, but who talk with these Harvard words don't do anything in the world because they're caught in abstractions where they can't make decisions because they can't assess risk. What is the risk of letting the woke right, like Tucker Carlson, do what he does? And what's the alternative? And what's the cost of the alternative? Without that information, there's no decisions to be made. There's no discernment to be had. And there's no action that can be taken. So why are we talking? If you're not going to provide that information to me, what am I going to do? I know you're not going to do anything because you don't even have that information. I know that if you do have that information, you're withholding it. Well, that's a little sneaky. It's only sneaky because you're doing this publicly. If you did it privately in a back room with cigars, actually, I'm quite all right with that. But when you do it publicly and you withhold information, I don't think you're withholding information, you don't have it. But I can't tell. There's no way for me to know. This is why conspiracy theories are silly. Sometimes people do things they don't know why. And you can always interpret anything as a conspiracy that happened with, 12 guys in a dark room with cigars. Like, that's easy to do. Or ancient aliens or Atlantis or whatever. It's all the same pattern, right? It's all the same pattern. All the information you don't have could be organized in a silly way that proves a conspiracy. I mean, it's true. You don't have the information, so you have to invent it. But I don't even think these guys have bothered to invent the information. All right, well, if it's perilous because Tucker Carlson could be woke right or could become woke right, how perilous is it? What would be the downside? What can we do about it? And what's the penalty or potential cost of doing something about it? And then maybe we can make a decision. Now, that doesn't give us the decision either. The decision might be, do nothing and let Tucker Carlson be woke right. I mean, because if you're going to talk about Christian nationalism, I'm going to say the same thing. I'm going to say, well, let the Christian nationalists be Christian nationalists and let the groypers be groypers. Like, I don't understand why this is an existential threat to you, me, or anyone else. I mean, it might be bad for them. Fair enough. Now the problem is, if that's your case, everything changes. But that is not your case. And that's actually really important because this is where people get caught up in doing things that they didn't intend. Is they think because we have the same, we'll say, proximal goal, that in fact we agree. And it's like, oh, that's horrifically dangerous thinking. Okay, how do riots happen? Oh, well, riots happen because a number of people with a number of different end goals have the same proximal goal, right? So you could look at the riots and say, well, we're going to go and start throwing Molotov cocktails at a federal building. Okay. And then a bunch of other people say, oh, they're going to go throw a bunch of Molotov cocktails at a federal building. I want to watch. Okay. They're not there for the Molotov cocktail throwing at the building. Now, the people throwing Molotov cocktails, in this case, want to overthrow some part of the government. Like, for real. That's what they want. The people watching don't care one way or another. They just want to see Molotov cocktails because it's kind of cool, actually. Right? And a bunch of other people say, oh, there's people out causing trouble. That means the cops will be occupied. Let's go loot some stores. 3 different goals. Same proximal event. It could be organized. I mean, it's organized in that an action is happening and that action is causing a bunch of reactions, watching and looting, right? 3 different goals though, but now it's one group. But it's not one cohesive group with one plan that's organized, because that didn't happen. They organize around the throwing of the Molotov cocktails. And there's other reasons for people to be involved in a riot, we'll say. I don't use hypotheticals, so, I mean, occasionally I do, but not very often, because you don't have to. Everyone's busy using hypotheticals, like, Why don't you use real world examples? And if you don't have one, maybe that's because you're in fantasy land in your head and you don't need to worry about the thing you're worrying about. That's a good quick shortcut. Oh, I've never seen this happen in the real world, but I'm going to use it as an example of something that could happen in the real world. Yeah, don't do that. There's no reason to. There's absolutely no reason to. What it means, at best, is that you didn't do your research about the subject you're talking about. If you can't come up with an example or a counterexample of the thing, then probably you don't know it well enough to comment on it. How's that? Nice little heuristics. Nice little heuristics. So you've got to watch these guys because they're sneaky with these false dichotomies. They're sneaky with the words they're using. They're totally non-committal. And nothing of what they've talked about is actionable or even explanatory. I still don't know what the woke right is. We're an hour and 13 minutes into an hour and 31-minute video. I know less than I did before, except that this is a personal vendetta by James, which he's admitted to. We can find fair. That's usually the most likely answer for somebody putting something out there like woke right, is that somebody hurt their feelings. I'm sorry, but that's just people.
Okay, but nonetheless, the idea that there's something to worry about, I think we're all agreed. The question of whether or not it's a definable something in the present that I will point out, I've wanted since the beginning of our conversation a list of people, and the only guy we've got is Tucker Carlson, and I don't think
How many names do you want? You just aren't going to know.
Okay. Bret doesn't remember the conversation. He's been given at least 3 other guys, I think 4, all of whom were also labeled Christian nationalists. And then James mentioned a group, Groypers. Okay? So when I say Bret's not very bright, this is what I mean. He can't keep track of his own conversation. I've been watching this stupid video over days, and in my head, I have kept a list of exactly who James has talked about. I don't remember the names anymore because I don't care. They're Christian nationals. I'm not going to relabel them because James is upset because his little feelings got hurt. That's not going to happen. So this is what I mean. This guy, in the span of about an hour, has gotten a list and can't remember the damn list. And you think he's smart. I beg to differ. Honestly, I beg to differ. Now, you can say, oh, he's really good at research. He's really fine. Then don't do this because you suck at it. You can't even remember the people he's listed. And that's fine. I can't remember their stupid names either. But you could at least do what I did. And if you can't do what I did, maybe you shouldn't be having conversations like this. It's that simple. Maybe you suck at it. It's okay. We all suck at most of the things in the world. And we're very good at maybe one thing. And we're good enough at maybe a dozen things. And that's it. And there's probably trillions of things in the world that we just completely suck at. It's fine, dude. Just don't do the things you suck at. The world will get better immediately if you just put your time, energy, and attention into things that you don't suck at. Well, look at that. You can make the world a better place just with that by doing less, in essence. Like, why is this hard for all these people? I don't understand. I am genuinely puzzled by this. You suck at this. Do something else.
Know most of them.
Okay.
Aaron McIntyre at the Blaze.
I know him.
He's woke. He's woke as hell.
Is he?
Aaron McIntyre? Look, I don't like Aaron. I mean, let me qualify that. I like Aaron enough. I think I follow him on Twitter or whatever. Sometimes he says stuff and I'm like, bro, you're not the guy. So you're going to find something else to do. You're not good at this. But sometimes he makes really good points. It's probably about equal with him, right? I would say about 50% of his stuff is good and 50% of his stuff is completely bonkers. And that's fine. I don't know what would qualify Aaron McIntyre as woke right, perilous, dangerous, or whatever, because I don't know what James is referring to. And this is the problem. Like, give me a list. Okay, but how do they fit into this pattern? Right. So what we should be looking for is a list of qualities that are easily discernible. Because if there are qualities that aren't easily discernible, that's a different conversation. It's a very different conversation. And we can have that conversation, but it's a different one. You have to frame things completely differently to start talking about that. But a list of qualities would be nice. And then, this is how this person has those qualities. And this is how that person has those qualities. Okay? Doing it this way is stupid. This is why I don't think any of these people are very smart. because they're doing this the wrong way. It's not the way you do it. Now, had James come with a list or had a list of people and then say, I think all these people are in this group, then they could have had a discussion. But I think to be fair to James, he tried to do that. It's just that his list sucks, and Bret dissected it, which, he's a biologist, so there you go, fairly quickly, and showed his list doesn't work. And yet James persists, because learning is not going to happen here. No one's gonna come out of this conversation having learned anything at all, especially about themselves, which is where they have the most learning to do.
The excluding people?
He spent the last 2 years trying to convince the world that I hate Christians so that Christians won't invite me.
Okay.
Yes. He accused me on his podcast, not his Blaze show, of openly calling for the assassination of the sitting vice president so that people would think that I'm a horrible person. He devotes entire shows, to my watching at least, knowing me, where every 3 sentences he says about me, at least 2 of them are malicious lies.
Okay. So I can't speak.
Okay. So this is interesting. So his case is, this is what some meanie person did to me because he's mean and I'm innocent. Okay. I got news for you, James. You do seem to hate Christianity, buddy. I'm sorry. I'll just tell you right off the bat. It certainly looks that way to me. And I used to follow him on Twitter and everything, but not anymore, because I'm like, bro, you're so far off the rails, you forgot there were rails. What are you doing? Again, we started this, right? He started this whole woke right thing because he publicly posted that Christians shouldn't worship in public with a public prayer. And now I wonder where this random accusation comes from of you don't like Christians. It could be your behavior and your actions in the world that kind of indicate that. I don't know. Now, I can't defend Aaron McIntyre either, because again, half the stuff he says is bonkers, but I get it. This is the real problem with the world is, you notice the false dichotomy. Who's to blame here? Is it sloppy slob James or spiffy looking Aaron McIntyre? Yeah, they both suck. How's that? Let's just do away with both of them in the public sphere. That would be better. You cancel both of them. That's cancellation. It's no, you have bad ideas and you shouldn't be disseminating them to the public. If that's canceling, cancel them both and cancel Bret too. We'll keep Mike. Mike's actually really good. Mike's really good, actually. I wish he could make the leaps, right? And maybe he is making leaps. He's just being quiet in deference to Clown A and Clown B. I have no idea, but I'd love to have a conversation with Mike. That would be interesting. A public conversation with Mike just to see where his thinking is and how deep he can go. Because I'm really good at that, right? I can tell right where you're stuck in, we'll call it 3-dimensional space. It's probably the easiest way to think about it, even though it's wrong. It's not wrong enough not to use. I can tell where people are stuck, where their blind spots are and stuff. Not everybody, obviously, but a bunch of people. And that would be a fascinating conversation. But these 2 guys are not the guys. Everybody involved in this so far is somebody that I would not allow to publicly broadcast if I were the dictator of the universe or whatever. I would be you can talk to your friends and family, and you can talk to strangers you meet in person on the street, and you're not allowed any kind of broadcast medium whatsoever because your ideas are terrible and you're a slob. So there you go. I'm sorry, but I don't know what else to tell you. It's weird that those things correlate so nicely. It might be a hint. I don't know.
To those things, I haven't seen them. I can say, from my perspective, anybody who wishes to exclude well-intentioned people, good faith players, on the basis that what they are exploring is not tolerably voiceable is, in my opinion, in the category.
Okay. So you notice the little tricks being played here. That sounds perfectly reasonable, and we can all agree on that. Why? Because it's all second-order abstractions. Every word he used is an abstraction. The problem is, how do you understand why somebody is silencing you? Maybe they don't want you on air because you dress like a pig. Right? Did Aaron McIntyre silence James Lindsay? Well, according to him, the effects of Aaron McIntyre's attacks, I guess is the best way to call them. He didn't classify them that way. That's my word. These people are so freaking pedantic. Just covering my bases here. That caused him to be silenced. Well, is that Aaron McIntyre's fault? Because that question is a much harder question to answer than you think. Because those people listened to Aaron McIntyre. Well, if they're listening to him, then are they woke right too? And maybe they would have canceled you anyway? See how tricky this is when you're dealing with second order abstractions? Like, what is this connection? And how do you judge why somebody was silenced? Were they silenced because they're inarticulate? Do you know how many people are inarticulate? Inarticulate. Watch Jubilee with Jordan Peterson. Inarticulate. These people are inarticulate. They're literate, highly literate. They know big words. The stuff they're saying makes no sense at all. I might do a video on it. If you want to see that video, comment. I might do a video on that just because it was fascinating. I had to listen to it while I was driving, but like, it was fascinating. I was like, what is wrong with these poor people? Why are they like this? And how can we help them? They clearly need more help than I can fathom. Ooh, we should do something though. It seems imperative to fix a problem this bad. Right? Some people are inarticulate. Some people are very bad at making very good points that are correct. Like, that happens. There's lots of reasons, right? Another reason could be that while somebody's very good at making a point, they're very bad at communicating to your particular audience. And this goes back to this whole thing about newspapers. So newspapers used to be written to a 4th grade reading level. Why? Broad audience. Well, but you're going to lose nuance when you do that. Right. What's everybody complaining about lately? The loss of nuance. So you can see that from the God's eye view, from the objective material reality view that Bret's in, we can determine all these things and figure out, oh, well, this person's woke right because they canceled this person or, prevented them from speaking on the basis of this. Well, how do you know what their basis is? You probably don't even know them. How do you know what their basis is? Like, you can't. It's technically impossible. It's an impossible claim. It's an impossible situation. And that's the problem. We can make lots of impossible situations. I call them fantasies, by the way, but you can call them whatever you want. We can make lots of impossible situations and state, well, if I could fly like Superman, crime would go down. Maybe. Who cares? If someone stopped you from speaking on the basis of, how would you know this? You know their minds? Are you psychic? Are you saying you have psychic powers? Because that's what you're saying. You're saying you have psychic powers or special knowledge. And I'm not saying that can't ever be done. It can, not by these clowns, that's for sure. They're not considering any of this. And there's much easier formulations for this. Much easier. But also, what are you going to do about it? Like, these people are on the internet broadcasting their terrible ideas and their terrible logic and their terrible second order abstractions all over the place. And no one's stopping them. And my argument is we should. It's still my argument. The internet has ruined the universe, technically, for sure, by giving everybody cheap and easy, high quality broadcast. Period. End of statement. I'll say it over and over again. This equality, this flattening of the world has made everything worse. By far, it correlates 100%, speed and size. 100% correlation. That's a little weird. That's a little strange. So don't be fooled by this nonsense. It sounds perfectly reasonable because it is perfectly reasonable. It's just ridiculous because it's unimplementable. It's perfectly reasonable to assume that if I can break into Elon Musk's laptop and convert all of his wealth to Bitcoin that I could then steal all of his wealth. Like, that's a perfectly reasonable thing to say. It's wrong, but it's reasonable. It's logical. It makes sense. It can be made sense of. It's a nice goal or dream to have, right? To try to implement, except it would make you a bad person. but also ridiculous. It's insane. It's nuts. Right? You could say, well, if I could just pick my house up and move it, well, sure, if you could do that. But what Bret's missing is the if you could, and the things he's saying are not possible to do, at least not with any of the proposals he's made, which, again, you'll notice they're not proposing any kind of action. All they're doing is arguing labels. They're arguing names. Well, I want to name this thing, and I don't see why your name works. I would rather name it this way, or this name should correspond to actions in the world, which are undeterminable, at least by me, because I'm a little on the slow side. I don't know what to tell you. This is the trick everybody's playing lately. I don't know why. I wish they'd stop. If it were up to me, totally put an end to it tomorrow. Arrest them and throw them in prison. Seriously, we cannot have this. This is destroying the world. Because what happens is, and this is what the ancient Greeks learned when they tried democracy, because it is correct to say there's democratization of broadcast. That is correct. The democratization, however, will lead to bad things, because you're going to get a few people who are particularly articulate, whether they're lying, ignorant, stupid, or just trying to do something that they're bad at, in other words, incompetent. Other people will follow them because of that. That's going to happen. If we're not careful, they'll follow Curtis Yarvin for a while, find out all his stuff doesn't work, and then switch who they're following. Right, over and over again. Look around. That's already happening all over the place. Once they find the fatal flaw in Jordan Peterson, they're gone. And, once they find the fatal flaw in Joe Rogan, they're out of there, right? Or whatever. And some people never find the fatal flaw or don't care about it, more importantly, and move and stay where they are. Or they move on out of boredom because, you can listen to so much Joe Rogan, or Jordan Peterson for that matter. So this problem is the problem of now. This is the problem that they're actually complaining about. They want more broadcast reach in the democratic broadcast system, which is impossible because it's democratic. So your reach is going to spread out and spread out and spread out. It's not going to increase. And it's not impossible to increase it, obviously. But for some people, they'll just hit a limit. And I think James's core complaint is, well, my reach has gone down. Right. And his boogeyman is the woke right. Oh, right. Okay. I get it. I don't see that problem, though. I have other problems, not that one. Bret can't see the problem. He's already said that. Right? And now he's in the process of reformulating something to try and find agreement. You'll notice this is all about agreement. Agreement in abstract propositions. Fantastic. Agreement in abstract propositions will save the world because that's what you get out of a conversation. That's the only thing that can ever come from a conversation. Now, that can spark participation, but it doesn't have to. And a conversation is not necessarily, we'll say, a deep enough form of participation to make a difference in the world. And that's where everybody's stuck. These guys are very good at conversation, or so they think. Obviously, I'm arguing otherwise. And therefore, they want that to be the thing that moves the world. Yeah, if that were the only tool I had and I wanted to do something, I would hope that that tool would do that thing too. But I'm not stupid, and that's not how the world works, and can't put a screw into wood correctly with a hammer. You can put it in there, but it's not going to function as a screw anymore. And if they were that close in analogy, I would be thrilled. But I couldn't even. James is trying to use a thermonuclear weapon to kill an ant, and Bret seems to be trying to use a hypothetical scalpel to kill off a peril.
Right? I think you're clearly well-intentioned. I do not see you as malicious in the slightest. I'm, as you willing to disagree with you when what you say doesn't make sense to me, but there's no part of me that worries that you're acting in bad faith, right?
Well, certainly not.
So
Holy macaroni, what do you mean? What is your definition of malicious, Bret? He just said the only reason he's brought this up that he's given so far is because people are preventing him from speaking. And so he's labeling them as woke right, even when you don't think they're woke right, and he can't justify any of it. I don't know what your definition of malicious is, but I got to tell you what mine is. It's definitely that. It's not only that, but wow. James is definitely being malicious. He's being malicious towards all the groups of people that he thinks are either directly or indirectly involved in him losing speaking engagements. He said this. This is earlier in the conversation. Now, granted, we've already established Bret has a terrible memory and probably doesn't remember any of this because he's like, oh, my buddy. I've got to save my buddy. I've got to redeem him. That's what's going on here, right? This is a redemption arc. Because you can't force redemption from below. Especially not when you're all clowns. You're all at the same level. You're not going to redeem anybody. That's not your job anyway. Cut it out. This idea of good faith. What is wrong with people and good faith? How can you determine someone else's faith? Oh, by the way, none of you believe in faith. So I don't even understand why you use the term. That term is not usable by you because you keep saying you don't know what faith is. Well, if you don't know what faith is, how can you sling around the term good faith? I'm just asking a question. Just tell me what you mean by good faith when you yourself cannot define faith. Tell me what you mean. And then whatever definition you have, completely, actually any definition you come up with, now you're going to tell me how you know someone else's faith. Go ahead. I'll wait here. You know why? Because I don't think you can do it. I don't think you can even try to do it. I think that if I asked you that question in person, your brain would explode like Scanners, that old, was that a 70s, 80s movie? Boom. I think that's what would happen. I think that's actually what would happen. In the physical world, I think your head would go boom. Fortunately, I think you're too stupid to understand those questions and why they matter a lot more than anything you guys have talked about. You sling around a term like good faith. You don't have a definition of faith, and in order to establish good faith, you would have to know someone else's faith. And you think it's perfectly okay to talk like that. Holy crap. You've got to be kidding me. How dare you? How dare you? Unbelievable. See the tricks they use? Well, you know what good faith is. You can feel it in your... Maybe. But it's not the same as what I think good faith is. But a perfectly serviceable term. It's contextless. But when it's contextless, you insert your own definition. You project your own definition into those terms. Or into that term. You say, oh, I know what good is. I know what faith is. Good faith. I can understand that. And then it's a matter of either agreeing or disagreeing with Bret, who can't define either term and doesn't have access to that information. And the malicious intent is clear. He's clearly doing this. James is clearly doing this to strike out at people he thinks canceled his speaking engagements. Now, normally that wouldn't be a big deal. Most people who do speaking engagements have other income. And therefore, the speaking engagement fees, as high as you may think they are probably, just extra to them, right? They're not necessary. For James, that's not true. My understanding from what he himself has said is that this is how he makes his living. And so people have attacked his method of making a living, which relies very much on Bret's framework. Bret's framework is, well, you shouldn't stop anybody from speaking out their ideas. Which he doesn't believe, by the way, because in other contexts he says quite the opposite. But right, and then he qualifies it with all these quote reasons, right? None of which he has access to, as I pointed out earlier. So that's where they have the agreement, and then they're using the agreement to say, oh, well, we're all on the same team. No, you're not. James is on Team James, which is why he looks like a slob and slouches in his chair. And is arrogant. That's Team James. You're not on Team James. James doesn't want anybody on his team. That's why he keeps alienating people left, right, and center online for no reason. People who've never attacked him and actually liked it and enjoyed his work, and now he's lashing out at them too for no reason. Maybe because they're woke right adjacent, or were, and then the minute they asked him a question to try and save an Aaron McIntyre from being labeled, or somebody else, I don't know, they got assaulted too by James. It's, oh, you're defending somebody who's in the woke right. You must be in the woke right. Well, I mean, that is logically consistent, but it's wrong. So it's logic, because that is also true, right? But just because somebody may or may not be, we'll say, part of the woke right, doesn't mean I shouldn't defend them when they tell the truth. Like, I don't understand. I should defend the truth at all costs, irrespective of all the factors, right? And so that formulation of adjacency that they use, only leftists, by the way, that's dangerous. When people on the right use adjacency differently, right? What they say is better to be safe than sorry, which is true, by the way, on average, like way true on average. You went to a casino with averages like that, you'd walk away with quite a bit of money. And that's the problem, right? The left prefers the exception and the margin, and the right prefers stability and the center. Sorry, I don't know what. And you'll notice those aren't opposites. Center and the margin are not opposites. There's more center than there is margin. It can't be the opposite. The center's on the outside. The margin's on the outside of the center, not opposite, right? It's on the outside. That doesn't make it the opposite, right? And also I said stability, right? Because the problem is, without stability, if you don't prioritize that, you get chaos, which is why everything on the left is chaos. And every leftist policy leads to chaos. And that's why, even though they enact good ideas with good intention, which I believe they have some good ideas with good intention, it doesn't work. Because they're not concerned with stability, right? They're concerned with their idea. And it's their idea. They own it. They have it. And that's the fundamental difference, right? Between left and right. Right there. That's the fundamental difference. Now, I still don't like the left-right dichotomy. I think it's foolish. It's not true enough to be useful in most cases. It's good for voting in the United States because we have a two-party system. Elon's party is not going to make it. I'm just going to tell you right now. The four tech bros are not going to be able to pull it off. I have to listen carefully to these things, because the propaganda, the psyop, is all at you in the conversation by using words that you project into. Make sure people define their freaking terms and they don't make ridiculous claims. Bret has no chance of understanding goodness or faith or good faith combined. None. Zero. That ain't going to happen in this lifetime or the next. Sorry. And that's just based on his previous statements on these topics. Like, I don't know what to tell you. He's confused about these things. That's why he almost never talks about them, but he has talked about them. And he's challenged other people's ideas on them. And that's why, because he doesn't understand them. But he's going to make a claim about somebody who's clearly malicious and whether or not they have good faith. It's completely ridiculous. And you'll notice James is quick to jump on the bandwagon and say, oh yeah, absolutely, that's me. I'm the virtuous nice guy. Dressed like that, I get questions.
I can't see why excluding you from a conversation would make any sense.
I don't even want these gentlemen canceled. I just want them to act in good faith.
Okay.
Holy macaroni. So far, honestly, we haven't established that James has been barred from any conversations. He's made a claim that a bunch of people might have canceled speaking engagements based on something that he did. But he did that thing. He said he did the thing. So it's kind of like, well, is that canceling? And then he says, I don't want them canceled. It's like, well, that's fine. You want them to act in good faith. What if they are acting in good faith and you're the one that's not? Right. See how these abstractions are a problem? Because they're not directional. They're not determinable. Who's in good faith? Is James in good faith, or is Aaron McIntyre in good faith? Aaron McIntyre has facts and evidence on his side, by the way. And James, so far, has accusations and slobbiness and arrogance on his side. I don't know if... I guess I won't reveal which side I fall in this equation, because I'm pretty sure you can figure it out by now. So, and look at the smug look on his face. Yeah, this is insane. This is actually like medication level unhinged. These people are nuts. I cannot. So he doesn't even have a proposed solution. It's just, I want them to act in good faith. What would that mean? What would that look like? Are you sure they're not already doing that? Like, you didn't accuse them of being in bad faith, but now you just want them to act in good faith. See how framing matters? Oh, I want them to act in good faith. That implies they haven't been, which you haven't made a case for yet. The only case you've made is that you said something really stupid, completely horrific, thoroughly inappropriate against Christians, and then as a result of that, you lost a bunch of speaking engagements. I don't know why you're blaming Aaron McIntyre for that, dude. Sounds like you did that to yourself. I wonder why it would sound that way. Because that's what happens. You did it to yourself. Stop blaming other people for your bad moves. And Bret probably doesn't remember, so it's fine. Clowns.
So what's the positive thing you were going to say?
How we get back to, I mean, yeah, there are more names, but
Are they names I would know?
I doubt it. I mean, there's a lot of these people are not famous except kind of in this niche world of, you know, whether it's Christian nationalism. If you didn't know Stephen Wolfe, it's doubtful.
Rings a bell, but I don't know it well.
Nate Fisher, Aaron Wren, Joshua Abbotoy, John Harris. I mean, you could just go and mention the other Wolfe, William Wolfe. Just kind of go down a list of a lot of these. Eric Kahn, Joel Webbin. Joel Webbin is this pastor that looks vaguely like Matt Walsh, but like a bad Xerox of him, that puts his foot in his mouth severely and is on Right Wing Watch every week now. There are lots of these guys. These are all openly theocratic. Some of them are openly anti-Semitic. Some of them are not. Some of them are openly racist. Some of them are not. So there are lots of people, and just within that world, which is the part of it that I paid the most attention to, because that's the first part of it
Dave
that I really
Smith
saw.
isn't in this category.
Dave Smith's a libertarian.
Yeah.
I called him woke right once because I didn't know who he was, and he said the same thing that some of them were.
Okay. Wow. That's more revealing. So he lists all these Christian nationalists and then says this is basically the woke right. Okay, but we have a label for that. It's called Christian nationalists. And then he admits, well, I didn't know who the guy was, so just threw him in the bad bucket. Really? So that's what this bucket's all about. If you don't know who somebody is, and they might be perilous, I know I'm taking Bret's word and putting it on James. I hope you noticed that I did that. And throwing him in the bucket with the bad people automatically. Just as a matter of course. I meet someone new, I don't know who they are, I throw them in the bad bucket. And apparently you can't be libertarian and woke right. Well, that's good to know. I just tell everybody I'm libertarian, and now I can never be woke right. Like, these are ridiculous ways to think about the world. Ridiculous. So far, all the sorts of people that would be mad at somebody for attacking their religion publicly for no reason, with the worst attack of all time, are the ones that are woke right. Weird. A strange, random coincidence, I'm sure. Also, Christian nationalists are Christian nationalists. You don't like Christian nationalism, that's fine. We could dig in on what nationalism means and is supposed to mean. By the way, I have a live stream on that, so you might want to check that out. I did it on the 4th of July. Kind of cool. I know I'm cool. It's true. It's true. What are you afraid of? Oh, you're afraid of getting canceled because that's how you make your living. Oh, poor James. You might have to get a real job someday. What are we talking about? And that's the problem. Oh, all these people, you wouldn't know them. Like, you wouldn't know them. They're not famous. They're in a niche. Why are we worried about people in a niche who aren't famous? Like, what is the peril? Why the fear? Why are we even trying to identify this unidentifiable group that James just uses to throw people in if he doesn't know who they are? By his own admission. Like, we have his admission, it's right there. Don't know who he is, can throw him in a woke right. Fair enough. I mean, I guess if that's your group for people you don't know, I'm going to assume they're bad people first and then work it out later. And all I really want them to do is be in good faith. When was Dave Smith not in good faith? Oh, okay. So that can't be your standard, because it can't be the standard you're using anyway. And you certainly didn't use it with Dave Smith. Oh, okay. So you lied about that for sure. Good to know. See, this is easy for me. I know everybody else struggles with it. I get it. It's hard for people. I don't know why, but it is. Fair. I'm not trying to denigrate people for not seeing this stuff, but also I see this clearly. This is why I make the statements that I make the way I make them. 100% sure. I could be 100% sure about a bunch of things because of stuff like this. It's not that hard, but you do have to listen really carefully. You have to have a better memory than Bret. My goodness, same conversation. You can't remember.
That
was the machine
seed
gun
of what's going on. You're getting attacked, and you go into these machine gun modes.
Specifically, I was getting attacked, and
Mike, for the win again. You're getting attacked, and you're going into machine gun mode. Bang! It's the whole thing. Mike is correct. He's nailed down the woke right perfectly. Again, best take on the panel. And you can see Bret's considering it, right? And Mike's like, gotcha. Because he does. So he understands it and sees it perfectly clearly. Good for him. I wish that Bret would come around and see what's wrong with James and disassociate. Because, sorry, bro, but canceled you should be if that's your weird definition. Like, you're just not good at this.
being asked, James, the thing you're saying doesn't exist. Give us examples of it. Then I see this remark from Dave Smith about something to do with Israel that matches exactly this kind of stuff the Groypers were saying. I don't know who he is. I just know he's a big following. And I'm like, there's an example of what I'm talking about. And it's like when you go to the park and a little dog starts following you around and you don't know why. And you're like, go home, little dog. And Dave Smith's been following me around ever since. And like all the libertarians here are like, say Dave Smith's not woke. And I'm like, well, he's a critical government theorist as far as it goes, but he's not a woke right. He's not even on the right.
Okay. So you notice the little magic trick that James is playing here is probably really hard to catch. Like, again, to be fair. But what he basically said is, I didn't know who he was, so I called him woke right. And then he explains, the reason I called him woke right is because he agreed with something the Groypers said. Now, again, this adjacency bullshit that only the left does in that way. Right? No one on the right does it in that way. They may use adjacency, but in a completely different way, right? That implies that everything the Groypers said is wrong. Well, that's unlikely statistically. I'm just going to tell you, like, it's very hard, even if you're a bad person, to like consistently get everything wrong. So he agreed with something that the Groypers said. And Groypers, to be fair to James, we already established Groypers and Christian nationalists are woke right for sure, according to him. So he, and now he's like, and ever since then, they've been trying to get me to back off. And he won't. And except he said here, well, he's not woke right, but he's a critical government theorist, whatever the hell that's, these leftists and their nonsense. It's like, when you look into leftist nonsense, you become part of leftist nonsense. This is why some ideas shouldn't be considered. Like Hegel and Immanuel Kant and Rousseau, and never mind. Everybody after Plato and Aristotle, Nietzsche, Heidegger, all these clowns. Because you get trapped in this nonsense. And so he's definitely woke because he believes in a critical theory, but he's not woke right. And James not only won't just say that to appease his followers, but he also won't define any of these terms. And he won't even say, no, he's just a libertarian. And the fact that he agrees with Groypers doesn't make him woke right. Like, why can't you say that? You've implied it here. But you won't say it. I wonder why. Frickin' apologize, dude. What is wrong with you? Grow up and apologize. You already admitted to the error That's fine. Now apologize for the error that you admitted you made. Unbelievable. And then he wonders why he's under attack. You're under attack because you did it to yourself. No one did that to you. You did that capably by yourself with unbelievable amounts of skill and a dash of arrogance. Okay, no, a truckload of okay. An infinite amount of arrogance. Won't even, already admitted that he screwed up. Already. Oh, and he made a joke. So somebody made a joke about something. And you call them woke right. Isn't that what you accuse the cancel culture people of doing, James? Who's woke? Who's woke now? Grab a mirror, kid. Okay? This is why you don't go down these rabbit holes. Because you end up being the thing that you are, quote, against. This is a classic example. Oh, look at the arrogance on this. It's dripping from every pore. Disgusting. He's disgusting.
Okay, well, so that, you got to admit, that's an expensive error to have made.
You live with them. It'll all boil down over time.
But in my opinion, my advice to you is to clean that up thoroughly.
I did that like in October. So,
but there's other stuff going on. It seems you and I have this joke about Peter Boghossian. It's like he throws stones at a beehive, and then he's like, "Why am I being stung?
Yeah.
Why would they sting me?" And I see that's happening.
Well,
here.
that's why.
Okay. Well, good for Bret. Like, that's a pretty big error. So again, an error, and he won't admit that it's an error. He's, oh, I cleaned it up in October. You just said you didn't. You said they're following you around, dude. Like, which is it? There's no mea culpa there. All right? And then Mike, again, nails it. Yeah. Peter, same thing. Wait a minute. Peter Boghossian, James Lindsay. Do those two have anything in? Yes! They're academics, part of the same little academic scam. Helen Pluckrose, oddly, does not seem to be suffering from any of this. I follow her, actually. She doesn't seem to be suffering from any of this because she's reasonable and not a psychopath and not arrogant like the two clowns are. I've got the same issues with Peter. I've done previous video with Peter, right? You can see that here. This is unbelievable to me. I mean, and interesting, like, Bret's not willing to push the issue, it seems, right? But I mean, Mike is. Mike's like, let's go, bro. Looks like Mike is in much better shape than, like, I bet he could beat the two of them up. And I think actually he should. Like, I think that would help both of them, honestly. Like, I'm sorry, but like Plato and Aristotle were wrestlers for a reason, right? Like, and they said, this is really important that you spend time in the gym. Weird. What a weird connection, unless it's real and super important. I don't know. Just throwing that out there. Just saying.
What happened when I started getting stung over the first couple things.
Yeah.
But then I realized this jungle's infested with hornets. And I got a rock cannon to fire at them intentionally, willing to take as many stings as it takes to get rid of the nest.
Well, but okay. Then
in fact,
okay. So here's his admission. I'm purposely stirring up. Peter does it by accident. I'm out there with a cannon trying to exterminate the nests. Really? You're exterminating nests. Is that what you're doing? You're going to get rid of as many nests as you can, huh? Is that, that sounds familiar. I'm fairly sure in history, there's one or two people that have talked about that. Right? We're going to get rid of this infestation of hornets. Yeah, because they're stinging me. Not for any other reason, by the way. There's no other reason to get rid of them. Not that James has listed. Weird. It's almost like the center of the world is James. And the only thing that matters is James getting stung. And even though he's instigating it, it matters that he is getting stung. And now he wants to purify the world of the hornets that sting him. Or should we call them woke right? So psychologically, there's your breakdown. That's the whole thing. There's nothing else going on here. Nothing. How do I know? James can't list anything himself that's going on. Everything boils down to, as Mike has so perfectly put, him. It's all him. And it's all his actions. It's all the results of his actions. In short, he hates reality because reality keeps fighting him, because he's living in his head, because he's an academic. And that's kind of typical. And look, I have a video on academia, right? They did that to themselves. They're morons. Like, oh, fair enough. We need to rebuild that ivory tower and put him in it, where he's not here anymore, throwing freaking rocks with his rock cannon at woke right hornets.
I kind of enjoy this thing.
That's
See, there
the
you go. There you go.
problem.
That's the problem,
That
and
is
that's
the problem.
why you're in this position.
So here's the problem.
I'm not complaining about my position though.
No.
But
I'm
I
actually
mean,
getting
that's
quite
that's
happy about
why-
that.
But you're losing
why.
people like me, and I don't think that's such a good thing for you.
Wow. So he enjoys, he's a masochist. Lovely. That's good to know. He's a masochist. He's also a sadist because he's destroying the nests, trying to exterminate the nests of the woke right and enjoying every minute of it. He's righteous. Right. And then no self-awareness, obviously. Right. And then Bret's like, yeah, but you're losing people like me. It's like, Bret, you should have already been lost to him, but you're still trying to save him for some reason, dude. I would get the hell out of there and let him suffer his fate for his actions. Like, what are you doing? Like, I mean, you tried, and yes, you have to try. But if you don't get the outcome, you still tried and you still get the points. Like, screw the rest of it. Seriously. Like, move on. Let him sink or swim on his own merit, or better yet, lack thereof, because it's more of a lack. This is completely insane. And then Bret thinks he's so valuable, like, oh, you're losing me. Whatever, dude. Call me when there's something valuable to lose here.
What you're doing is, and you know, it's funny, you've quoted me back to me several times in the last couple of days, things I don't remember having said, but when you say it, I remember it. There's something you quoted to me about more than flack over the target.
Yeah.
What was it?
So when you know you're right, it's not just that you get the most flack when you're over the target, but when you get mutually contradictory flack.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So the example that I use is when I've nailed something interesting scientifically, what I hear is you're wrong, and we knew that already at the same time, right? And it's like, oh, that's the sign that you're.
What? That's a baffling example. So, all right, I think I've already established this before. These guys couldn't spot a contradiction if it smacked them in the face. Like, they are contradiction kings. Okay. You're wrong, and we knew that already is not a contradictory statement. Okay, I'm sorry. If I find a coffee cup on my desk and it was already there, I can say, ooh, I found a coffee cup on my desk. I have discovered the coffee cup. But the way it got on my desk was I put it there. Like, does that make it contradictory that I found a thing that I placed there? No. Okay, like, I don't know what to tell you. So, like, if I did an experiment that, like, proved something and that had already been proven, or at least something about that had already been proven, but not the same experiment had been done, but different conclusions could be come to, that would fit his definition. That's not a contradiction. Like, I hate to break it to you. So these guys couldn't arbitrate a contradiction if their lives depended upon it. So, oh, it's not the flack, it's the media. Okay. You know when else you get flack from everybody? When you're wrong or when you're pissing everybody off. So let's imagine that there's more than two types of flack because there's more than two countries firing at you. Oh, well, now it can't be opposing flack, can it? By the way, flack is never opposing, because this is the irony. Like, this is what I say when they don't understand there's an up. They don't understand vertical causality. So if country A is firing flack from this direction, country B is firing flack from this direction, the flack is not mutually opposing or any of that. Like, it's not. You're just getting flack from two different sides from down below. Right. And so from your perspective, you're getting flack from all sides, right? From everybody else's perspective, you're an irritant and need to be got rid of. The problem is everybody else is a large distributed cognition and you're a moron by comparison. That should be a hint that it's you and not them. As Jordan Peterson said, if it's all women, it's not the women. Right. If everybody is giving you flack, it's not everybody else who's wrong. Sorry. Like, because flack requires effort. Like, if everyone's ignoring you, you might be right. And only a few people are like going after you. Yeah, you might be right. But if it's everybody going after you, they're putting effort into you, then you're almost certainly not right. Because if you're just, we'll say, harmlessly wrong, everyone's going to let you do what you want to do and not bother you, quite honestly. And you see that all the time on the internet. And sometimes that's dangerous because sometimes, people rise on the basis of their bad ideas. Usually they blow up pretty quickly. So a lot of the white nationalists had that problem, right? David Duke rise and then fall because these things aren't sustainable. But their statement's just wrong in every possible way. And it's not two opposing sides. And they aren't the arbiters of contradiction at all. I don't know what to say. Now, Bret's example, if it were more specific, might be correct, but his general statement is logically incorrect. I don't know. These guys are not going to win a Logician of the Year award anytime soon. I can tell you that.
You're onto something.
Right. And so right now I'm getting James is irrelevant, so we have to stop him.
Okay, but here's the problem.
Well, he's not getting James is irrelevant, so we have to stop him. He's getting James is irrelevant because he's wrong, but also he's attacking people and we're going to fight back. Right, because he's attacking our nests, which he said, he said this. Okay, so you're getting two different signals and conflating them as a single signal, probably because you're stupid, because I don't know how else you would do that. By definition, you're just not understanding there are two different things going on here, not one. Two things can be true at once, as Ben Shapiro is famous for saying. James doesn't seem to be able to track two things at once as separate items. It's that simple. So you've got to Occam's razor this real quick and figure out James isn't that bright.
I think you have flipped a bit with respect to the hornets. You are used to a world in which, as you get close to something, you get hornet stings, and you've become like a bear. Okay, now we have to go back to bees instead of hornets because you need to be getting the honey from the hive.
There
or
is
something.
no honey. It's no honey.
It's an empty hive. But,
well, but you're pursuing something, right? You're pursuing some model of something that's really good, and nobody else can build it because they don't have your toolkit. And you know that as you get one of these models really right, you get stung, right, a lot. Mm-hmm. And so you've come to associate those stings with success. And the problem is that there are ways to get stung that don't involve this.
No, I'm totally aware of that.
And so I think you're getting some stings from the machine gun indiscriminate shooting thing that you are falsely being reassured by, rather than being driven to do with what I now think you should do, which is reformulate your critique. Say, look, there's a canonical danger. At this moment in history, here's the thing that could happen, and here are 6 examples of what it looks like when it does. Here are some people who seem to be leading us in this direction, and then you need to be very careful not to include anybody who's not clearly in the category.
You know what's even more fun?
Wow, there's so much wrong with all of this. There's just so much wrong. Like, where do I even begin? First of all, Bret retold a brand new story that has never been told in this conversation before. Of, oh, you used to just walk around looking for honey. And then James immediately said, no, I was never doing that. There was never any honey there. And you've associated getting stings with finding this thing. Okay, well, what is that thing that he was finding? And then, oh, you're recognizing this pattern. James said himself, he's got a rock cannon and he's destroying hornets' nests. That's what he said. I believe him. That seems to be the behavior that he is exhibiting. It's a perfect match. I don't know what else to tell you. So I'm not going to believe Bret James was wandering around finding honey. When did James find any honey? When has he done anything positive? When has he built anything at all? What has he built? Where is it? Is it good? It's just building something. I mean, first that has to happen, but then it has to be good. And it can't be something that would emerge whether you built it or not, right? Like, so, a community formed around me. That happens all the time. That doesn't mean you built it. Like, communities can form without your knowledge or involvement, actually. So maybe you built it, maybe you didn't. You're going to have to bring more than this happened to the table. What did you do? What steps did you take? How did you do this? What tools did you use? How long did it take you? Right. Well, then I'll believe you built something. Otherwise, I don't believe you built anything, because things happen all the time. All the time. So don't get fooled by that. Things happen, things emerge constantly. Most of the things that emerge are bad. I'm just going to tell you right now, most of the things that emerge are bad. B-A-D, bad. That's what they are. Okay, so what did he build? Where is this honey? And how is he getting it before? Because my theory is none of that is true. That's my theory. Is my theory correct? I don't know. But it certainly seems correct to me. Now, Bret has rewritten this and then said, no, what you need to do, right? And the first thing he needed to do, which Bret didn't mention, was actually create the category and define it. And then put people in it. And then this whole thing about, there's a danger and here's the historical danger. I don't know about that. Like, when isn't that danger present in history? Because the answer is it's always present for all the dangers. And that's always been true. And there's always been people pointing that out. And you just need to read more books of a certain type, which apparently you haven't been. I don't know what to tell you. The communists were always a threat. They're still a threat. You can call them Marxists or neo-Marxists if you want. McCarthyism was correct. McCarthy did not convict anybody who wasn't an actual Russian spy. That was a threat back then. It's still a threat now. I'm not surprised. There's still a danger. Sure, yes, we need to be vigilant. You're not the guy. You're not the guy. You're not in a position to do anything about it. You don't have any new and novel proposals. You just want to yell, Chicken Little, the sky is falling. That's all you want to do. Because that's what you did. And that's how you got famous. Oh, the sky is falling. Academia doesn't know how to vet academic papers. Look. Thanks, bro. I already knew that. I knew that probably before you were in college. This was always true. Sorry, this isn't new. That danger was there all along. And people like me were pointing it out and didn't do any good. And then you pointed it out and you get money from it. Fantastic. Where's my check?
Fun is when we don't name names and you say things, and then they all come out on the internet and say, why did they name me? For example, when Jordan Peterson went on whatever news show it was and said, CNN maybe it was, and he said there are psychopaths in every movement, and dozens of MAGA influencers said Jordan Peterson called us psychopaths.
Yes, I actually on Tucker
Same
Carlson.
thing happened when I talked to Jordan, because it came out after the fact, because we talked about Lucifer, and Jordan called us Luciferian.
I don't want to be too naively marketplace of ideas kind of guy here, but I just think there's really interesting conversations to be had. So I'd like to see you actually talking to a lot of these people that you're fighting, because not on Twitter, because it just doesn't work.
You can't do it on Twitter.
Right. But I'm grappling with a lot of the stuff in that realm, and I think there's a lot of legitimate grievances there and some interesting thoughts and interesting players. And so that's where the action is.
That is
so
quite, by the way, perfect ideal land. Because when you're dealing with subversive movements, for example, the Groypers are subversive,
this is why I started with a caveat.
Why don't you debate Nick Fuentes? Because if you go on Nick Fuentes and he says 40 things and you hit 39 of them out of the park like a Grand Slam home run, and you stumble, not even get the last one wrong, that gets clipped, and that's the whole story. It is a malicious game that they're playing.
Okay, so what did James just say? I thought what Mike said here was completely bonkers. Like, no. But I don't agree with James's formulation either. James's formulation is clearly wrong. You don't know how to dismantle Fuentes to his audience. Therefore, you shouldn't talk to them. That's a better statement. That's correct. If you don't know how to dismantle Fuentes in front of his audience, don't talk to him. Fair. But this idea that therefore you shouldn't talk to him, well, that's what you seem to be referring to as cancellation, James. So you're saying you should cancel people. Again, like, what do you want me to do with this? You have become the thing you pretend to hate. I'm familiar with this pattern that you're stuck in, clearly. Also, you're stuck in a pattern, and you are the thing you pretend to hate. And you shouldn't be that. There's no reason for you to be that way. You could be better.
And the entire apparatus, while I've spent the last 9 months condensing and trying to understand what I'm talking about clearly, right?
Yep.
They've been demanding I go debate them when it's clear that I'm not ready for that in the environment of an asymmetric political warfare circumstance. It's not
Asymmetric political war. It's clear that he's not ready to debate them. How is it clear to them? You're the one throwing around the accusation. So maybe. I'm gonna brainstorm this top of my brain. So, bear with me. This is really difficult stuff. Maybe you shouldn't use the term if you're not ready to debate on the term. Wow, that would have solved a lot of problems, huh? No, instead, you're busy firing rocks from cannons at hornets' nests when you're not ready for the fight, according to you. Who's the idiot? Let's work that one out for me. I'm a little confused. Like, what is wrong with this guy? Like, seriously, what is wrong with him? Hopefully no one's still following this clown. Like, this is bad. He just like doubles down every 2 seconds. It gets worse and worse and worse. No wonder why it took 4 parts to do this stupid video. Oh my goodness. I feel like there should be like a fund where I get all the money for listening to this retarded lunacy. Because seriously, like, this is nuts. This is completely insane. These people are exactly the thing they're complaining about. Except maybe Mike. I can't tell. I think Mike, I mean, he's good with the conversation thing, but like, I don't know where he stands on anything. So I don't like that. I like knowing where people stand on things. With me, you always know where you stand. You know where I stand on every issue, and you know where you stand with me. 100%. It's not that hard. I mean, you may be imagining you stand someplace else, but it's your own fault. I don't control your imagination. You need to do that for yourself. That's something James can't do. It's something Bret can't do. They can't control their imaginations. They're very worried about the peril of what might be, because in history, things have gone a certain way sometimes. And not for the majority of history, by the way. So they're worrying about outliers again, because that's what the left does. These guys are all leftists. This pattern's so clear to me now that I'm always frustrated when people don't see it. I'm like, guys, I suppose it could get lit up with neon signs or something, but like, really? Is that what we have to do? Because it's getting pretty clear what's wrong with these people. They're just leftists and they're rebels, and they don't have alternative plans. They don't have definitions. They don't want to draw boundaries. They want to be wishy-washy. They want to speak in abstractions. So to blame anybody. They want to blame, capitalism, the system, the asymmetrical. Everything's asymmetrical because we're not equal. Like, if you're thinking like, well, it should be symmetrical. No, that's the same as saying it should be equal, and it's not equal. Like, I'm sorry, but the world you grew up in is not equal. That's why you're a unique person. Like, if things were symmetrical, you wouldn't be a unique person. Like, you wouldn't. There would be nothing special about you, and no one would be able to see you because you'd look exactly like everybody else. So I don't know why symmetry or level playing field or equality is a standard for these people, because that's nihilism. In all cases, sorry, it just reduces to nihilism immediately. So I don't understand this. So again, if you haven't formulated this well enough, maybe don't use the term. But this is a retelling now, right? James has already admitted he's going through the jungle with a cannon with rocks in it, destroying hornets' nests. and then whining about the fact that he's getting stung because he kind of likes it, because he's a masochist. Fair enough, bro. Why are you involving everybody else in that? And also, guys, if that's what he wants to do, let him be. Don't try to save him. Like, okay, dude, you're having the time of your life, stirring up trouble. I guess keep going and keep not building anything, but taking things other people have built, like their nests, and destroying them. Fantastic. I mean, seriously, if we're not going to lock people like this up who admit, oh, I'm just running through the world, throwing rocks at other people's constructions. Why? Willy-nilly, why would we let these people do this? Seriously, that's my question. Why do we let people like James do what he's doing? By his own admission. Why? Because we don't want to cancel him? I don't get it. Like, why is this acceptable behavior by anyone? You're arbitrarily, randomly going around blowing up these nests over a theoretical, historically rare event that may or may not occur? That's your standard for destroying other people's stuff? Holy cats. Talk about Marxism. That's Marxism.
Someone like Carl Benjamin, you could have a great chat with.
I've had great chats with him.
Yeah.
So I would argue,
and he's a good actor.
I would argue you are not obligated and should be very cautious about interacting with people who are not acting in good faith. But I do think that there.
How are we supposed to know who's good faith? Oh my goodness, these people do this all the time. All the time. It drives me nuts. Now, the problem is, of course, by this point, Carl Benjamin and James have already had a falling out over the woke right thing. So, and yeah, he talked to Carl before, but now Carl's told him he's wrong and he's crazy and he should stop doing it. And he asked him a bunch of questions, which James never answered. I was on Twitter. James never answered the damn questions. Carl asked him at least 3 times. Tim Pool did the same thing. If you're going to tell me that Tim Pool and Carl Benjamin are not nice, super liberal, crazy people that will talk to anybody, then I got news for you, buddy. I'm not going to believe anything you say about anything ever again at that point. Like, those guys who have already, at least Carl has already talked to James, will definitely talk to him about this. But he will not engage. Do you know why? Because he's the one who's not in good faith. He won't answer Carl's damn question. He won't answer Tim's question. He won't answer questions from a bunch of people. Very easy, simple, very neutral, good faith questions. The kind that are being asked here. Gee, we really like you and we think you have the superpower of seeing these patterns because math. Horrible way to see patterns, by the way. I suck at math. Oh, so please help us to understand, right? And then James doesn't. He just doesn't help them to understand. He's not making any effort at all. None. He's kind of like, oh, I've got the woke right, and I like to be stung, so I've got a rock cannon that I'm throwing at nests of hornets so I can get stung more. Also, I'm getting stung, so woke right. What is your problem? What's wrong with you? Oh, I like getting stung, but they're all the woke right, and the woke right is bad, and historically rare events might happen again. What are you going to do about it? Nothing? Because you can't do anything anyway. You've never done anything in your life. So there you go. You're going to do nothing. Why are you causing trouble publicly? For nothing. All the nothing you're going to do. Oh, I'm going to call attention to it. Somebody else who's actually competent can do the work. I don't think so. I think that what's going to happen, because you're not the first, second, or third person like this to do this sort of thing, especially not on the internet, especially not recently. I think what's going to happen is you're going to lose all credibility, which, you should, because you're not a credible human. Like, you can't build anything. You can emerge all kinds of chaos, and you can throw rocks at things other people have built. Fantastic. Fantastic. But anybody can do that. That doesn't make you special. Unless you're talking short bus special, in which case it absolutely makes you special. This is unbelievable to me. And then Bret's solution is pre-choose good faith, as though you can know good faith before you've interacted with somebody. And it takes a lot of effort to know good faith. And they're bringing up the example of Carl Benjamin, who he had a falling out with. Like, this is not a good look for any of these guys.
there are people who are acting in good faith who are put on the back foot by your scattershot approach here, and that you should be talking to them, that would be productive and valuable. And I think the real point is you're doing your work for a reason. You're trying to accomplish something. It involves wrestling your model to a high level of polish. And I'm sure you're not there because it's been so hard. I mean, it's required this conversation for me to even know what you're talking about.
Sure.
So I would argue that those conversations with good faith folks who you think are in somewhere near the milieu that you're trying to describe would be perhaps the best way to get to a tool good enough to prevent the failure mode that you're pointing to, which I agree is very important. It is on the table as a possibility, and it does need to be avoided, but
what's the failure mode these guys are pointing to? What is it? They haven't named it. I don't know what the failure mode is. You're pointing at ghosts, at boogeymen, random boogeymen. There are failure modes. That's true. There's a number of them. They also are all really easy to spot, by the way, which these guys always forget that part. They're always like, oh, gotta be careful of this boogeyman thing. I was like, yeah, but you can spot it really easily. Like, why do we have to be careful of something that takes 2 seconds to see? Well, they never explain why we have to be that careful about something that is obvious. It's another thing about the left, man. Obvious things they struggle with obvious things. The more obvious something is, the more they struggle with it. I don't know why. They love to deny reality and deny their own senses so that they can pretend they don't know reality. And then go, oh, well, we don't know reality, so it's okay, man. We can all get along because we can talk. No.
There's a second failure mode to this model as well, by the way, you may not be realizing. So just to draw back to Marx says that the history is a contention of classes, but at the end of the first paragraph of chapter 1 of the Communist Manifesto, he says that this fight through all of history ends in not one way, two possible ways: in the revolutionary reconstruction, or reconstitution, I should say, of society at large, or in the common ruin of the contending classes. So a second failure mode is not that MAGA becomes this neo-fascist force. It is simply that MAGA destroys itself from within and becomes unviable to continue the mission that,
which is looking
good or bad,
likely
that
at this
Donald
Karl Marx was wrong. History is not a contention between classes. That's just false. Read any history book. You'll realize immediately that isn't what happened ever. Sorry. Almost all revolutions fail, except, honestly, like one, like ours, like the US. So Karl Marx is wrong on that front, too. Like, this is all, the guy was a fantasy writer. He wrote the fantasy in his head, and he was a very poor thinker. So he had a very flat world. So you don't even like Karl Marx, and you're accusing everybody of Marxists, and then you're quoting Marxist propaganda. The Communist Manifesto is like the gold standard for this thing people label as propaganda. So you're quoting Marxist propaganda written by Karl Marx as some kind of standard for what's going to happen now while complaining about Marxism. Really? Like, and you think you can spot a contradiction, do you? Wow. These guys would know a contradiction if it flattened them. Like, I don't, like, this is beyond anything I could have imagined. Like, how like, why are you the thing you claim to hate? Why are you the thing you claim to hate, James? I don't understand. You've bought into the Marxist propaganda? And you think Marx is correct about actually anything? Because I'm fairly sure every single thing he said is just completely wrong. But whatever. I'm not going to read his garbage. So yeah, the Communist Manifesto is so obviously incorrect. I'm like, really? People read this and didn't burn it? Because seriously? But whatever. It's fine. Most people are stupid like James. So fair enough. Even if they have big vocabularies. This is unbelievable. I could not have imagined him making that move. Him in particular making that particular move. Could not have imagined it. I'm totally stunned. I don't even know what the universe is anymore. Now I'm questioning reality. Oh, nope. He's just dumb. Never mind. Fixed. See how easy it is? Hey, he looks pretty stupid to me. I should question reality. No, you should assume he's stupid. That's what you should do. It's not that hard. It's wicked easy. It's the easiest thing in the world. Unbelievable. And, well, that's how MAGA is going to end. What? Is MAGA a revolutionary force? Like, what are you talking about? Donald Trump got elected. You guys need to, like, get over yourselves. Why weren't you like this when Biden stole the election? Which he definitely did, by the way. No. Why weren't you like this when Obama was elected? No. Why Trump? I don't get it. What's so different about this election? Oh, the leftists are losing and now they're upset and they don't understand. Even though they're losing to a moderate leftist. What is going on? Oh my goodness. This is yeah, I don't know.
It is looking likely.
It's looking very likely.
So a Democrat blowout in 26 or 28 that puts us not back where we were under the Biden regime, but in a worse place because now the right has been badly discredited on its own terms.
Which is why
is in fact the failure mode I think is coming.
Okay.
What? A Democratic blow. Okay. You guys are never getting power again in the United States. I'm sorry. It's not going to happen. The only Democrats that are going to get elected going forward are going to be moderate Democrats. And the majority is going to be conservative or Republican from now on, especially with the Republicans also moving further left. As outlined in the New York Times, and the article that was posted there was posted by Paul Krugman there, the scumbag, such a scumbag, who drew the opposite conclusion from the research that the research conclusion drew and that the picture that they posted showed, which is everyone's moving further left. Right? And the world's getting worse. I wonder. That's a weird correlation, unless it's how reality works or something, which makes you think. Yeah, no, there's no chance of that. I don't know why this crazy person is talking like this. And this whole dichotomy thing is the whole reason they don't understand MAGA, because they're stuck in this left-right dichotomy. Most people are registered independents in the United States. The largest group of registered voters is independent in the United States. That's not Democrat and that's not Republican. I don't know why this is hard for everybody. I really don't. Now, if you want to start in the argument with, well, it's the extremes that swing the center, there's something to that. However, when one of your extremes is too far away from the center, it loses its ability to move the center. That is actually a better model. I don't like that model, but it's a better model for what's happened than anything these guys are ever going to come up with. Like, you could boost their IQ by like a factor of 3, and they're still not going to be able to figure that out. And they're not, because it's not a function of IQ. But also, yeah, they're not the guys. Like, they don't understand politics at all. Like, the basic fact that most people are registered independents is such an important thing to understand if you want to understand politics, that if you don't understand that, you're not going to understand United States politics at all. You have no chance. None.
Okay, well, that's interesting, and I do think that is very worth paying attention to. Frankly, I think, and I don't really think of myself as MAGA. I feel I'm closer to MAHA. I'm definitely about the West, and MAGA is sort of fellow travelers.
What is he talking about? Like, why should he pay attention to any of this? Isn't he an evolutionary biologist? Maybe you should pay attention to that. Because he could like make a breakthrough there or something, or teach a student or something good. But look, what's he going to do on the political stage? Nothing. He's not going to do anything on the political stage. He doesn't even know what he's talking about. There's MAGA, MAHA, ha 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 ha. How about the ha 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 ha, MAGA, MAGA, ha ha, MAHA? What are you guys talking about? What are you saying? Oh, and MAGA is more fellow travelers. What? Isn't that what a political party is? Fellow travelers? Like, what do you say? I don't understand what you're saying. Fellow travelers. Well, yeah, we're all fellow travelers. We're all in the same country. We're all fellow travelers. We all voted for the same guy. But MAHA's different? How's MAHA? Oh, it's not. Oh, that's right. You're just a crazy person. That's what's going on here.
But I do think that I'm watching those tensions jeopardize the political clout and the ability to navigate intentionally. And it's spooking me because, I mean, the worst case.
What political clout? Jonathan Peugeot talked about this recently on Winston Marshall's channel. And there's a great clip of it. I think it's on Peugeot Clips. It might be a short, in fact, where basically Winston Marshall's like, yeah, more conversations. And Jonathan Peugeot's like, yeah, conversation doesn't move the world. I wish it did, but it doesn't. And Winston's like, what? Like, he's totally like, I mean, they're on a podcast, so a little bit of a shock, right? And Jonathan Peugeot goes, action. And then he says, I think that's why Trump's successful. Like, he's certainly not explaining things, right? He's not having conversations, right? He's just doing stuff. And then that stuff begets more stuff. And this is why, like, these are the types of clowns that would have fought with me back when Trump got his second election and was putting forth his cabinet ideas. I had a number of these conversations with people, right? So they're like, oh, this cabinet, how many of the cabinet members do you think he's going to get? Well, probably all of them. And they're like, no, they'll be negotiating. And I'm like, I don't think you guys know how this works. Like, I think you're very clueless. The Democrats just got trounced, so they lost a bunch of power. But also, if you don't have a better candidate to put up, the candidate that gets put up wins. And I've talked about this a zillion times. Honestly, I don't think people get it because it's probably too simple. My trick as a consultant used to be, I go into these groups, I'm not part of the company, or I'm a consultant. Nobody likes consultants. I get that. Fair enough. Right? And then I would get together a proposal, write it up, submit it to the group, would have a meeting about the proposal, and someone would go, this proposal sucks. I don't know. You're not accounting for... And I would very calmly say, okay, that's great. I'll tell you what. Here's what we're going to do. You draw up your proposal, and then we will have a vote on the proposal in this group. How's that? Okay. Now, here's the magic psychology. So stupid. Whatever. Here's the magic psychology. People are lazy, especially people who complain a lot. Complainers are lazy, right? Because people who don't have time to complain because they're busy doing stuff. So people who do stuff don't complain as often because they're busy. It's that simple, right? They're not loud ever because they're busy. They're farming. They're ranching. They're doing things. They're building businesses. They're managing employees, right? People have time to complain. They're lazy. They're incompetent. They're whiny. They're not doers. They're not the type of people that do in the world, okay? The number of times that somebody came back with a plan is still 0. 0. The reason why it works is because everyone sees the critiques, because critiques are cheap and easy. Anybody can destroy anything. They can destroy a plan. Well, this plan doesn't account for where the sun's going to be in Sagittarius at the exact time that we type the command. Like, okay, it doesn't. That's true. You can critique anything all day long. It's not that hard. Like 3-year-olds do it constantly. You can be 3 years old. It's fine. You've been 3 before and probably haven't lost a lot of that anyway because you didn't grow up yet. It's fine. It'll be fine. Right? James hasn't anyway. So I don't think Bret's maybe 4. Maybe you get to 4. I don't know. It's on the line. Mike seems pretty mature though. He's good. He works out. Anyway, so when you get a consensus around, hey, I'm going to let this guy air his grievances and you'll all get to vote, you, as the person who submitted the proposal to begin with, is now taking a leadership position and showing your willingness to engage with the person critiquing your work, right? Or proposing something, an alternative to the work. And then you're saying, so you've elevated yourself up, but just by proposing will we vote on it? Just that proposal elevates you up, right? And then you're saying, well, I'm not gonna decide. I'm gonna let all of us decide. So now no one in the group is going to disagree. That's how you build consensus, by the way. Yeah. Through subterfuge and psychology, basic psychology, not this highfalutin garbage psychology that unfortunately Dr. Peterson sometimes engages in. Not always. Some of his psychology is good, but he's missing a bunch of stuff, at least when he talks publicly. That's how you do it. That's how you build consensus. So I've never lost one of those battles. It's never even been, the challenge has never happened. Why? Because I established authority and put it to bed. Here's a proposal on the table. This is what we're going to do. I never had to say that. Never had to say anything like that. I could just put the proposal on the table, and then, more times than not, somebody would say, well, rah, 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 blah, 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 right? And then I would say, oh, okay. This is a game you want to play? Let me show you why I'm in charge and you're not. And then I'd say, hey, that's great. Why don't you bring your proposal tomorrow and then we'll vote on it. Everybody gets to vote on it. I won't decide. You won't decide. Everybody will decide. Instant consensus built. Right. That's good management. I hate to brag on myself, but also I don't know what to tell you. Good lesson. That's how you build consensus. Because anything else you do, well, not anything, but most of the other things you could do in that situation are going to split people apart. But you have to know how to do that. You have to know how to do that. And these are not the kind of people that know how to do that. They do not have a proposal to fix anything. They haven't come up with a single proposal to address any of the issues they've come up with. And there's an old adage, I've said this before. It's an old adage, right? Don't go to the boss with a problem unless you have a solution. That is correct. That is correct. You shouldn't listen to people who come to you with only problems because they're whiners. They're complainers. And they're not going to make things better.
Scenario might be that whatever has taken over the blue team does reassert itself. The red team having stumbled and called itself into question, and that basically the deep state comes in foot on the gas and turns the key on the totalitarian state that it's been constructing. So
the deep state has been constructed. What is wrong with these people? So now there's a third player. There's Team Red and there's Team Blue. And because they fight, Team Deep State can become totalitarian. Well, then who's in charge? This doesn't make any sense logically. You know that, right? Like this makes no sense. The way he's talking makes no sense at all. Like if the deep state is there, then it's running everything. And it doesn't matter who's in power. And like, if that's what you believe, if you're a crazy conspiracy theorist, that's fine. It's a lot more nuanced than that, but fine. But the idea that it matters then which one's in power is silly. Like, no, it doesn't. If the deep state's in control, then the deep state's in control. And that's the end of that. Like, very strange. And then why has Team Red gone too far? And by doing what? When did any of this happen? Or is this just more engagement in fantasy? Because I think it's engagement in fantasy.
I'm very concerned about that. And I do think it is a service to civilization for you to be spotting these nascent dangers. But in order to do the job right, you got to be really careful not to overstep what's already taken place or what you can already say with clarity.
Sure, of course. But I'm forgiving of my own mistakes, and there's a process there too.
Oh, well, James is forgiving of his own mistakes. That solves it. That's fantastic. You can forgive yourself your own mistakes. Who knew? And it's a process. So the fact that I'm a screwball and I like to get stung by hornets because I'm attacking the things they built when I can't build anything and haven't built anything. I'm okay with all that because I'm forgiving of my mistakes. You haven't even admitted to your damn mistakes yet, dude. Why don't you start there?
Iron is sharpening iron. As long as you go, you propose a thing, people say, no, you're wrong, you refine your view, they refine theirs. And there's a process to that we don't have to freak out about in the short term.
All right.
When is that process going on? I don't see you moving at all. It doesn't look like you can move. It looks like you get a little too many pounds there, kid. Hit the gym, bro. I don't know what to tell you. Like, what the hell? Like, iron sharpens iron. You're not addressing any of the questions that Carl Benjamin asked you. That would be iron sharpening iron. Why don't you go on and talk to him about it? And Tim Pool. They both asked you questions that you did not answer. And they've already said, well, those guys are good faith, or at least Carl Benjamin's good faith. Well, fine, then go do what you're proposing is happening that clearly isn't happening. And this is, man, I just despise arrogance. I just despise it. And it's just dripping. I can feel it coming through the screen somehow. And you don't believe in demons.
All right. Anything you want to say in summation?
Nothing really. I think you hit it. It's great.
I'll just say since I never said my positive thing very quickly, the level playing field is called something. It is called common sense. Not in the sense of the things everybody kind of knows. That's not what it means. Common sense technically in the philosophical school means that reality is out there, objective to us, and we all have both the sense apparatuses to detect reality with some fidelity, not perfect fidelity, and the sense-making apparatuses of rationality to be able to process what we're taking in. And so common sense is this idea that there's not some secret hidden knowledge that only the people who agree with the cult are allowed to be the ones who dictate how things work, right? So when you put the ability to put sense-making into everyone's hands, not merely the people who have the right virtues or the right values or the right identities or whatever else, that's where we defend the thing that is kind of one of the key foundational pillars, not the only one, but we're running short on time to talk about the entirety of the West. That's a pillar of what holds up the West and what has made the explosion that we've had since over the last 500 years, plus the entirety, in my opinion, of the American experiment truly work, is that it's rooted in the idea that each of us, without having to appeal to some special authority as opposed to somebody who's demonstrated their competence being a different kind of authority, but a special authority. I read the secret tablet, I read the secret book, I have the right heritage or whatever, therefore I get to speak and you have to listen, just like with the woke left. I'm black, you're white, you have to listen to me, shut up and listen, right? That is the problem, that is woke, and the answer is no, everybody who wants to participate in good faith participates in good faith.
All right, there's
Holy mac! Well, I've never heard that before. Okay, first of all, common sense is a sense that we have in common. That's what it is. Okay, I don't know about this philosophical tradition garbage. Clearly not true. Right? This is the correspondence theory of reality that says reality is objective and independent of us, right? That makes it an objective material reality in most cases. We could argue about the material part, but it is objective material reality. Trust me. Just I'm not going to go through it in this video. It would take 6-8 hours in my current state to do that. I ain't doing that. So objective material reality, and then we correspond to that or conform to it. Okay, but that means we have no impact on reality, which is clearly wrong. Okay, so if the reality is that I ate a sandwich for lunch, then that requires me to eat the sandwich. Like, it's not that hard. And so it's not objective, right? It's actually dependent upon my actions. Right? The reality is, if I kill somebody, they're dead. Right? So that depends on my actions. The reality is not manifest without my actions. Period. End of statement. So that version or idea or definition of reality cannot ever be correct. Period. End of state. Cannot. It's just wrong. The holding on to that means you basically become a determinist. Because you have to. You have to say, oh, well, reality is independent of me, and therefore everything I do is either determined by reality or was predetermined by reality. Right? It separates you from reality. You're not separate from reality. You're real, and you're part of reality because you're real. It's not that hard. You're a real person in a real world. Both of those are real. When you combine both of those and a bunch of other things, that is what we refer to as reality. It doesn't work any other way. There's no other formulation for that. I'm sorry. There just isn't. Now, the rest of the stuff he said about senses and close enough, yes, but then he injected this term sense making. If we give people sense making, really? Oh, well, thank you, James. James, with the forbidden knowledge of sense making, is going to give it to us. See the problem? He's doing exactly what he said. And his characterization of the West is completely wrong. First of all, most of the history of the West, as any conception of the West I've heard, is not what people call modernity, which is really the age of gnosis, but not modernity, but the West. Any conception of the West that I've heard, almost the whole time has been ruled by kings. Right. Almost the whole time. In fact, probably the whole time, but I don't want people, pedantic pricks, jumping all over my statements here. So I'm gonna be slightly cautious. So maybe you could say, well, now, let's say, with the advent of the beheading of the English king, see my history videos with Adam, by the way. I have a whole playlist. You should watch them all. They're great. Adam's awesome. You never watch for me. Watch for Adam. It's fine. Then we started to struggle with government or governance. And when you struggle with governance, you end up with different types and forms of government, because that government is an instantiation. And then the issue becomes, okay, well, how's that working out for you? Right. Well, and then the answer is, well, actually, it's been rather downhill, ultimately. So 100 years after the Reformation and the splitting of England, we get the beheading of the king. I think it's 100 years, 90 years, something like that, right? 3 generations, something on that order. And that leads to these revolutions. First the Dutch, then, well, the English, the Dutch, us, United States, then French, which reinstantiates the king or emperor, right? Because I can't be a king. I have to be an emperor, right? Because Napoleon's as flat world as you get. But that's all as a result of the age of gnosis. That's not the West. The West is way older than that. The West starts roughly with an innocent man on a cross. I don't know how you're going to get around that. You can try to get around that. We demarcated all of history on that one event. So pretty much, or around that one event. So, and then history wants to break free. Okay. Yeah. Do the Immanuel Kant thing. Sure. Go ahead. Try. He couldn't do it. I don't know why you think you can. This is crazy talk. Okay. James is going to give us the sense making. He said that. Oh, fair enough. I don't even know what you're talking about in terms of giving us the sense making, but it appears you have the sense making and we don't. That would make it forbidden knowledge by your definition, or really by any definition, James. And so you're trapped in the dichotomy that you've created. The thing that you hate is what you have become. That's what's going on here. Shocking. Honestly, utterly shocking to me.
One thing I would critique about that, which is that your focus on the level playing field is about the idea layer. The most fundamental thing about the level playing field is the well-being layer, right?
Sure.
The idea layer is as important as it is, and it's disproportionately important to people like us who, think for a living. But the important thing about it is that it allows us to discover what is true in various different senses of that term through an unlimited discussion. And I agree, good faith is the key element.
No, Bret, you can't discover truth through discussion. You can't. That's ridiculous. You don't know what's true until you do it. Period. You don't know anything until you participate. Period. End of statement. All knowledge is participatory. All. With zero exceptions. There's no other type of knowledge. There just isn't. So no, that's wrong. It's just as wrong as you can be about a thing, actually. As wrong as you can be about anything, that is how wrong that is. Sorry. Crazy talk. Crazy talk. I mean, almost, right? Idea versus being, never heard that. We got having versus being. That's a good one, right? But idea versus being? Like, really? I don't know how you're... And all these dichotomies, these false dichotomies, these guys and their binaries, just, I'm dyslexic. This is why I don't like binaries. I'm dyslexic. Put binary in front of me, I'm screwed. I'm screwed. If I lived in a binary world, I'd be completely wiped out immediately because I'm dyslexic. You put two things in front of me, the odds that I'll swap them are really high. And I have lots of methods for fixing this, which is why no one knows, which is just hysterical to me that nobody notices. Because to me, I'm like, oh, I see the error I made there, and I see what I did there. Right? Everybody else misses it because you all are stupid. It's hard to pay attention, right? I pay attention to myself really well in that way anyway. Other ways, not so much. Fair enough. Like we all have our things, right? So it's just shocking to me. We don't live in a binary world. Stop making it about binaries. Like, I don't understand. There's not two things anywhere in the world. Why are you doing this?
I'm not interested.
Yeah, subversives are a problem.
Subversives are a problem. We have to tolerate them in order for all of us who are acting in good faith to have the freedom to actually consider ideas that are at first troubling and then turn out either to falsify themselves or to lead us to something useful or to turn out to be less troubling than we thought. But
ideas falsify themselves. Oh, that's fantastic. So the idea just goes, hey, Bret, this is the idea. I'm false. Problem solved. The ideas just falsify themselves. It's magic. That's great news. Do you see the trick? Ideas don't falsify themselves. Why is anyone listening to Nick Fuentes then? You think his ideas are false? Oh, well, we can't debate with him and falsify his ideas because if we do it correct 49 times out of 50, and on the 50th we're not wrong, but we stumble, they won't. But well, then it's not the ideas doing the falsification now, is it? It's another person. And it's weird to talk about the world this way, to be honest with you. Like, I don't know why people talk about the world this way. I'm like, what is wrong with you? All the agents, all the agency, all the action in the world comes from the things you're labeling that aren't physical. And they're not even spiritual. They're not even mental. All the things you're talking about are imaginary. And they all have agency somehow. So all the agency is in your imagination? That's your thesis? I'm just going to back away slowly.
Anybody, the hallmark, I would say, of bad faith is the desire to limit the discussion, right? The unleveling of the intellectual playing field through cancellation is the key to how the well-being layer gets unleveled, which is what results in these revolts. So,
holy mackerel, what word salad nonsense is that? So now we've got bad faith, which again, we haven't defined faith, bad or good, because these guys can't define any of those three words. I guarantee you could ask them to get into an endless discussion, and it would be endless, about what any of those words mean independent of one another. Much less putting them together, which creates a combinatorial explosion that John Vervaeke likes to talk about, whatever, right? I mean, it's hopeless endeavor to talk about these things this way. You can talk about them. Like, I can show you bad faith and good faith. It takes 2 seconds. These guys can't. That's what's important. So yeah, they're using valid terms invalidly, and they're not experts in them. In fact, they know nothing about them by their own admission. I'm not making this up. Like, I've seen these guys talk about these subjects, except for Mike. They can't grapple with them. They can't. They don't have the tools. But they're perfectly happy to trot out these terms. And none of what he described, makes any sense. Like, talk about sense making. Yeah, well, you guys could use some because you don't seem to have any at all. Your sense making, it seems to be negative infinity. Like, my goodness. Like, can't draw any conclusions from your own statements. You can't connect anything. You can't stand on any ground and make any concrete statements about the world. Wow, everything's personal. Or it's abstract. It's like an abstraction is going to reveal itself to be false. It's like, what? How is that going to happen? What is wrong with these people?
Anyway, this has been a terrifically important discussion. I'm really glad, I think, to finally understand what it is that's motivating you. I would caution you, other people are not seeing what's happening to you. They're not seeing through your eyes. Course. And so it looks like...
Believe it or not, I don't go complain about it.
Well, that's not the issue. The point is the utility of what you're doing depends on your ability to convey it to people and to persuade them that there's something worth paying attention to.
Okay. So, notice, James claims, well, I'm not complaining about it. So your use of woke right towards random people in many cases is not a complaint? Because it sounds like a complaint to me. So, James, I hear what you're saying, and I don't believe a word of it. Because it sounds like you're complaining. And now that I know what you're complaining about, your use of the term makes perfect sense to me. It is a Marxist term of anger and resentment, much like Karl Marx used with just about everything. Capitalism is the bad guy. Woke right is the bad guy. Sounds like the same formulation to me. It's definitely the same pattern. There's no question about it. Same pattern. So, and you notice, Bret doesn't see what he sees, but he understands his motivation. Really, do you? His masochistic motivation to tear down things that other people have built and then accuse them of being the bad guys? Because that's what he said, among other things. That's what you see. Okay, fair, I guess. Is that what you see, though? Because that's what he said. I mean, I see it pretty clearly now, too. I'm kind of disgusted by it, but I see it. You know, why is it important to convey that pattern to other people? Because he hasn't linked that pattern back to these outlier historical dangers, which again are easy to find. You know, look, I hate to point this out because I feel bad when I point out like historical facts that I read about that are, we'll say, not in dispute by anyone ever, that sort of point out some of these issues. It's not like evil dictator in Germany wasn't known to be evil and dangerous, and it's not like people didn't try to stop him. Like, that happened. So it wasn't people like this, because they're weak and incompetent. So they're no threat to evil dictators. If evil dictators indeed there are, there's a reason why it wasn't everybody. And that's the thing they haven't come to terms with. All your convincing and argumentation, which you admitted wouldn't work if you went on Nick Fuentes and debated with him. Kind of important, by the way. Oh, you can't convince your enemy. Or the people you've made into your enemy for no apparent reason, by the way, which I tend to think they could be rehabbed pretty easily. Not by you clowns for sure, but whatever. Your method of argumentation wouldn't ring with them. True, whatever that would mean, or not, completely irrelevant. You just don't have the correct rhetorical skills, the correct set of skills. If rhetoric is the correct set of skills, even, you don't have those skills. Fair enough. Don't play in that game then. Don't play in this game. You're bad at it. It's terrible. Terrible conversation. Terrible. Except Mike. I'm really impressed with Mike, actually. I'd love to talk to Mike. Like, there would be I'd love to talk to Mike about this conversation. Oh, I could talk to anybody about a dozen different things, but just from this conversation, listening to Mike, I'm like, oh, I talked about this and that and this. That's just me. I'd love to talk about this conversation and what he saw. I'd probably have to do it privately because I'd really want to get his thoughts and I wouldn't want him to try to preserve his relationship with Bret or James. As tempting as it is to say, no, it has to be public. So you can't preserve your relationship with either of these two lunatics that you shouldn't be associating with, because that is my tendency for sure. Like, let's be clear. Mark is forever constantly fighting his passionate desires to do certain things, which maybe even would be the right thing, but he's just not sure enough to go there, right? Like, all the time. So The lesson here is don't listen to these guys. Probably about anything. Their logic seems completely non-existent. Their useful application of their own ideas is non-existent. There's no use to what they're saying at all, irrespective of truth or correctness or conviction or belief or faith. There's no point to any of what they're talking about. It's very sneaky, and I don't think Bret is sort of conscious that he hasn't agreed that he understands what woke right is beyond James' motivations for using the term, which is not an endorsement, by the way, although he didn't frame it that way, because he's trying to preserve a relationship for no reason. Like, some relationships should not be preserved. This is why evil dictators survive, because of people like this and their unwillingness to take a stand against. Sorry, these are the people that did it. Europe had nothing but leftism in it the whole time throughout the Great War. The Great War, the whole thing about the Great War was leftism. Let's tear down kingship. Let's get rid of these monarchs. Let's get rid of the rest of them, because the Great War got rid of the rest of the monarchs, right? The two big monarchs. Everybody was copying France. France is the cultural center of the world, still is. Unfortunately, that's what we're suffering from. And England, cultural, also a big center of the world, mostly because of their commerce, roughly speaking, a small nation, commerce, very tight-knit group, right? They were able to leverage that. They were able to do things that other countries or nations, actually, they're probably a nation. I have to think more about that. But other places weren't able to do, right? We split off from that. We did kind of the polar opposite. We took a bunch of groups of rebels and somehow got them together. I've got my own theories about that. By the way, I covered that in my Nation's live stream that I mentioned earlier. That's linked. It'll be linked below. That leftism continued in Europe. And the US became the only place where any right-wing style thought existed. And that's still true today. Although the right-wing sort of ethos is reemerging in Europe after decades of it being gone. And if you want to call that, monarchism or whatever, that's probably where it ends, because that's what has always worked throughout history reliably. I don't know what else to tell you about history. Like, you can just read the history and figure this out. Like, oh, we've always had kings and it always worked. Fair enough. Okay. Maybe the US has a new system that actually works as well or well enough. I don't know, man. I'm in the middle of it. I can't tell. I'm one person, only one life. Hard to sort of say one way or the other. I'm a patriotic American, so I'm like rah rah. I'm also a nationalist in that way. Like, yes, go my nation. I have a nation. Everyone has a nation. Don't reject your nation. That's bad for you, right? Like, yes. Is America a nation? Different problem. We're more of a federation of nations. Covered again in my Nation's live stream on the 4th of July. I don't know what's wrong with these guys. I really don't. I wish they were back in the Ivory Tower and no one could see them and they could just talk amongst themselves quietly. That would be fantastic. I think that'd be better for everybody. In fact, I made that case again, and I talked about it earlier, my academic video, like my video on academia. This is what happens when you flatten the world and you let the people out of the Ivory Tower and you let them down to ground level. And they didn't learn anything from not only the Plato's Cave, which again, I have a video on, you should check that out, but also book 7 as a whole of the Republic. And had they read it with proper comprehension, which I doubt they have, despite James claiming that he has the sense-making that we can give people, lucky us. Please, James, please give me the sense-making. That's not forbidden knowledge. I don't know. Like, they should read these important texts of the Western canon, and if they're able, maybe they could get something out of it. My fear is they've read them and they lost the plot. They missed the story. Let's see what's in the last minute here.
To the extent that you look like you're lashing out at phantoms that aren't real, you're not doing yourself or us any favors. So I would just caution you, ask your friends whether they can see what you're seeing, and if they can't, then realize that that has to be part of the story too. Here's what I saw that you haven't, that tells me there's something we need to pay attention to.
It's fundamental to Twitter as a communication device.
If that's even what it is.
Yeah, whatever's going, whatever's
It's a
going on
propaganda
there,
battle
it's a
space.
deranging kind of tool, and
Yeah.
so
We
I
said
would say
years
use it
ago
less.
it's a deconstruction machine.
Yeah, it's anyway.
Yeah.
Should probably
Yeah, in any
wrap up.
case, great discussion.
Thank you,
Yeah.
gentlemen.
Mike Nayna,
good.
James Lindsay, thanks for joining me. You guys want to say something about where people can find you?
Most of my work is on Substack these days, so just michaelnayna.com.
I am at newdiscourses.com. That is New Discourses. You can tell I've done it before. Newdiscourses.com, or follow me at Conceptual James.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us.
Wow, guys. Wow, what a garbage conversation. Truly junk. Thanks for sticking with me. If you did stick with me this long, I apologize that exists. I mean that sincerely. I'm sorry I had to participate in it, but also somebody had to debunk that utter trash. That is far worse than I had anticipated. Don't follow these people, except maybe Mike. Mike seems okay. At least he has some kind of grounding, and the fact that they didn't come to a conclusion or really agree or resolve the question of what is the woke right. I mean, the title is James Lindsay wrong about the woke right? It's an unfair question. You can't define the woke right, and therefore using that term is wrong. He can't defend or debate that term. By his own admission, I'm not making that he said this, right? Therefore, he should not be using that term. Is it wrong for James Lindsay to use the term woke right? Of course it is. Given what he said in this interview, it is absolutely 100,000% bad, wrong for him to use that term. Period. End of statement. Clear as day. He can't debate it. He can't defend it. He already admitted to this. He has perhaps, if he hasn't burned those bridges, the opportunity to do the iron sharpens iron thing that he suggested he is doing, which he most certainly is not, just observably in the world isn't happening. And he has failed to do that. And so to the extent he claims to have standards, he is not living up to those standards. Does he have standards? I doubt it. He's a leftist, and very few leftists actually have standards. Sorry, just it is what it is, guys. I hate to be like this about it, but we can't keep pretending that it's otherwise. We can't. It's too important. It's become too much of an issue. But I hope you learned something from this. I hope you learned a lot from this, actually. There's a lot there to learn. And fair if you didn't learn as much as you wanted or got the sense that there was more there. It's a video. You can always come back to it. You can always reach out and ask questions in the, put comments or whatever. Engage with the work. You can come on the Market Wisdom Discord server. Whatever you want to do. But look, 4 parts. I apologize. Also had to be done that way. I really appreciate, however, that you gave this your time and attention.